Hello.
Hello,
How you
Janet.
doing, Ruth? Long time no chat. Hey, Denise, how you doing?
Good, Janet. How are you?
Oh, all right. Kind of scattered.
What do
Um,
you guys do on YouTube?
we post the recordings of the webinars on a private channel, and we record things we do on Fridays when we meet people. The free for all on Fridays. We post those on YouTube. We've got
Huh.
we've got a so you should be getting a thing after the after a free for all and after a book club, you should get an email that says, "Here's the YouTube link to it." And
Oh, I
so,
am getting it. I haven't checked it out.
yep. Hello. We are playing around Arena with the controls. Yeah. Oh,
I
good.
tried.
Good. That's good to hear. A notes from yesterday, but I haven't posted it yet. I was just sitting down to do that. What our overall review was, any critique we had, and whether they were able to get the books or if there were any related videos. And then we chose another. We chose.
What's that? I'm trying to remember that BBC mystery. Anne Cleves. I think that this author, I don't know, but I feel like she takes a leaf from Anne Cleves' character, the female inspector in her mysteries. What's her name? Sort of a big woman who lives on out in the country on a hill or in a like kind of isolated spot. So
Uh-huh.
that was in common with Anne Cleves, Inspector or whatever her name is.
Yeah, the setting where she was on that hill, and even the discussion that had been built by a pioneer in California's gold rush days, and um, yeah, that was cool. That was cool, and then she was very carefully taken care of. Okay, critique. Okay, we had.
Vera Stanhope. She reminded me of Vera Stanhope as like kind of just in description of the person, yeah, and where she lived.
Vera Stanhope.
Yeah.
Um, okay, critique. Now I told you what my critique was. It was something critique. The uh, the guilty party was not fairly introduced at the beginning with everybody else.
Well, let's see. When does she come into the story? Because she comes into the story pretty early.
Right, but she
Isn't she the
comes in.
receptionist? She was like,
Yeah, that
Yeah, she
receptionist.
comes in. She
you
comes
saw
in
her
as
right away at the beginning.
well. She
Yeah.
comes in as a name, though, not as a particular place. We don't find out until halfway through the book that she's the secretary for the department chair. Is that what?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
yeah, but that I don't mind that.
I'm trying to
I
remember
mean,
which
sometimes
other.
I have to keep reading back to see who these people are anyway.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I was reading all those Donna Andrews ones, and she writes like two a year. But in her stories, she's always wavering between which person is it, and that seemed like this too. There's all these different people, and yeah, at first I think it's really clear it's this one, and then oh wait, it could be that one, and it goes. It kind of draws the story out, and hers was like that. She had all these different suspects that she.
That you bring in and then you rule them out. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then sometimes rule them back in or whatever.
But at any rate, what did you think? It was Botanist Assistant this time. Did you manage to read it?
I liked it, and I don't normally read mysteries, so
You don't normally read mysteries. Wow.
no, no.
Uh, in,
So
in
that was
that
interesting.
in that
And
case, some of the things that apply to people who read mysteries all the time, like did they follow the format? Did they do what you did? Were you able to figure it out any place along the way, or did it did it keep you going?
no, it kept me guessing for quite a while,
Uh huh. Okay.
but I was also fascinated. The only copy I could get was large print, and I've never read a large print book, but it really goes fast.
That's kind of cool. Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
book would help me. I sometimes, once things start wearing off, the hands start shaking, and that's just impossible to read a book unless I sit like this, which doesn't work for me. Did you read it, Irina?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay. What about you,
No,
Marilyn?
because
Well, I'm trying to think, was
because
that one I recommended?
on
Because I
Libby
did
it's
read
like
that.
16 weeks wait.
And I'm
Which
trying to
week?
think. I'm going back to Goodreads to see when I read that. I read that. Well, I just finished it. I said in June. That can't be right.
Well,
I am reading so many books. I mean, I like mysteries and I like
uh,
historical stuff. And I've got like about 2 books waiting at the library and about 8 books here right now. I don't know how. I just the holes all got away from me. So
I think books are. I mean, they're wonderful. I can have three of them going at once. I had a client who was retired and a philosopher, had gone back into being a philosopher, which he always wanted to be, but then got a real job as an engineer. One of those. So he's retired and he's a philosopher and he's collecting books. I mean, he turned the whole house into a library, and he was always reading 3 books at once. He'd always carrying 3 books. I said, "Why do you read 3 books, Dick?" He said, "I read a chapter from one, and then I put it down and I read a chapter from another, and it helps me process the one that I just read." And I thought, all it would do would be confuse me. I'm sure which did I read it in. So you weren't able to read this one, Irina?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I signed up for it, but that's why I thought I'll join and see what you guys have to say.
Okay.
Free or not.
Okay. All right.
well, I'm hoping somebody was going to help refresh my
When
memory
do gardening
because
We're going to. What's that?
when do gardening people have time to read during summer? That's
Well,
what
when it's full of smoke from Canada, you can catch up on a lot of stuff. And I do read at night.
that starts with vacuuming the house once a month.
Well, yeah, or audiobooks. Jean, I know, who joins us sometimes, gets them all on audiobook if she can. But Marilyn wants to hear it. Yeah, refresh your memory. There is a woman who should be a PhD,
right.
and
Margaret.
she's the assistant to a really smart guy who's working on something that could be related to cancer cure. So she's really committed to what she's doing, and she's something of a, what would that be? Obsessive compulsive kind of. She knows it takes 3 minutes to take a shower. She knows she has to
Right.
pick up this, do that. So
Yeah, she's got to be at work
at a certain time. So she's really a good person to have as your assistant in the
it
lab.
was her boss who died, wasn't it?
And as her boss who died, they find him dead, and did they call it a heart attack?
Yeah, it was all his heart.
Yeah, they said it was his heart. But she comes in after the police are done and sees the two glasses for whiskey. She said somebody was here, and he doesn't break out that whiskey except in. So she knew something was going on and started poking around, and she pokes through the dean's department, and she meets a guy down in janitorial who's a pretty cool character.
Joe, yeah.
Yeah, you got to have somebody. You got to have somebody in a mystery novel. You have to have somebody come up who becomes the resource person for the main person. Because if you don't have
And the
that,
cops thought she was crazy.
yeah. But she does solve the mystery with a little help from her friends, and there are a number of references to plant collecting. Where these leaves that they're experimenting on have to come from, and how political and personal the obtaining of these leaves is to be able to do this stuff, and how important it is, and how
Oh, that's right.
political the academic scientific community is, who publishes what, who gets their name on what. Yeah, so it was a lot of that stuff in there, and I kind of liked it, but it was a fast read. Rita, you can have mine if you want. I gave it to my neighbor already, and she read it and she liked it. Now my neighbor and I, we read mystery novels. If you don't, or you don't like them, then you wouldn't have the critique that I had, which is you don't put the murder. You don't have the guilty person, whether it's murder or whatever the mystery is. You don't have the guilty person show up after halfway through the book. They have to be introduced at the beginning with everybody else. You've got to be able to consider it. And this person was introduced only as somebody that she stopped by to see, but nothing about what position they were or whatever. And you didn't hear how that person fit in until way back. And I said, no, that's not fair. That's not fair. That keeps those of us who are trying to figure out and look for the clues and reading back to page 82, it's not fair to us.
You ever Did you ever solve the mystery yourself? I mean, I read these whodunit books. I don't read them. I listen to them when I do something. But
Yeah.
have you ever solved it
Yes,
yourself?
Steve and I do all the time. We don't necessarily solve it right, but we'll stop the, if we're listening to something in the car together, we'll stop the recording and go, okay, I know who it is now. And then we explain what we are picking apart. So it gives us something to talk about. And sometimes we do get it. And sometimes they're not mysteries, but crime stories for it. So you actually know who the bad guy is. You just have to figure out how the people chasing him is going to find him. But it was a good diversion from too much to read, because I was at the same time finishing this one. This one just blew me away, but you were so right, Denise, to get the young reader's version of it, because he goes into scientific explanations of things that I appreciate that you've explained that way, but I don't need that. I don't need to know what the number of that type of cell of item in the DNA is. You know, is it M2536 or M2722? You know, I don't need to know that stuff, but there it is on the page, and if you don't look through it, you miss where the other stuff starts up afterwards. But you finished it too, The Immense World?
Pardon?
Did you read Immense World too?
No.
I only made it halfway through the book by the time we got to the last book club get together.
Oh.
And there's a lot of technical stuff in it, and I don't want to let the technical stuff go. I'm going to
Oh, right.
plow
So
my
you
way through it.
take your time with it.
It turned out that there is a young reader's version of the book that
Oh.
Denise happened to find, and she read through it. But anyway, I stuck with it because I was really getting into it, and all the stuff that was there. And I couldn't put it down the second half. It was like, wow.
Huh. Now I want to read it. It's called Immense World.
An Immense World, and it's about senses of other living things. So
Okay.
touch, taste, sight, and all the things that others have that we don't have, like being able
Yeah.
to tell vibrations and stuff. That's my critique of this book. But like the end of it, where he gets into, it's about animal senses. So it's the difference between how a monkey touches and how insects touch and we touch, and the end of it, the last part of it, is senses that we don't have, like echolocation, except that people do have echolocation. Did you read this? Was it in the young version, Denise?
I don't remember the echo.
There are people, not just one, but dozens of people in the world who are blind who can echolocate, who can walk down the street and tell you that there's a hedge right to my right, it's about 5 feet tall. They can tell you what they're doing, and they're doing it by they make clicks themselves. Some of them have been blind since birth and they just learn to do it. Others are taught by people who've done it already. But all that echolocation of bats and porpoises and whales, and the respect that you get for scientists who say, I'd really like to know what whales do, but how do you keep a whale in captivity and train it to do X so that you can see what happens if you change the underlying criteria, you know, like you do with a rat or a dog or anything like that. So anyway, I was finishing that one and thinking it was really good. And that last part, including echolocation, had electrosense, able to sense electricity. So there are animals that can produce an electric field, like electric eels and some of the fish, most of the fish actually. But there are also a lot of animals that can sense electricity, that can actually tell whether there's, at the tip of a leaf, there's an, because all plants are negatively charged because they're 90% water and they're attached directly to the ground, and the ground has a negative charge. So they're negative charge. So anything positive charge, like a bee that's been rustling through leaves or across grass, or you that, like when you walk on carpet, when you touch it, you discharge into the negative. Well, these bees can see the discharge pattern, and from the tip of a leaf, it's a different shape than others. And it would appear that when the bee lands and the pollen from the plant, which is loose, gets shaken off and sticks on the bee, that when that happens, that temporarily there's a charge change. The pattern at the end of the petal or leaf changes, and the next bee by knows that the pollen is gone already just by what they sense as they go by. And that's like,
Wow.
I
That might explain why I was watching one on my coneflower the other day and thinking, why aren't you alighting?
yeah,
There's a lot of them out here.
they can,
Maybe I mean, I haven't seen a huge amount of bees on them.
no,
You
there
know.
haven't been a huge amount of bees in this yard this year. I've seen honeybees, very few. See a lot of our native bumblebees, very few of the big bumblebees. Most of them are the smaller carpenter and mason and solitary bees, and then a lot of the very, very tiny bees. But it's not a big insect year here, not in our yard. It must
Oh,
be.
so it's not just me. I was surprised because I have so much lavender, and usually this lavender is covered in like everybody. I mean, you name them, they're there. And this year, it's just like one, two, three bumbles, and that's it.
Yeah, we're I mean, they've been noticing it worldwide, and nobody's sure why it is. They think that a lot of environmental things have a play in it. Use of pesticides, especially at the agricultural level, because it blocks out so much territory between here and there for insects to fly across, um, and also lights. I mean, fly at night, look at all the light in the sky, and these insects follow light. They use light to orient themselves to what's up, what's down, which way to go, and they think that we've just spread too far and we've hit a crash. I'd like to know not, because so many of the birds are so dependent on insects, and I sure do
Well,
want
it
to.
seems like they got a lot of the black swallowtails off my dill because they
Yeah,
counted. I know
yeah,
I was a couple people at Tollgate that this today I was talking to collect the eggs, and I said if I have a pet it's going to be a dog. I do not want to get into butterflies. That's just
because it's taking care of them. You got to clean up, you got
yeah,
to keep them
there's a
safe.
lot of work involved.
You got to go out in the field in a wild field someplace, knocking ticks onto your cuffs to find them the food that you need to bring home to feed them. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I just like the idea of being able to provide a place where they really can make it all the way to. And we saw the first monarchs show up, and then about 3 weeks later, we saw our own monarchs. They're so bright when they've just come out of the chrysalis. They're just, the color is so intense. So we know that we have at least one generation made it here. Some of them probably didn't, but at least one made it. Our black swallowtails disappeared, but they were big enough that they might have crawled off to pupate. So I'm figuring, but I've seen them come in, especially when they're little. I've seen a chickadee go in and wipe out the whole plant.
Well,
Five,
I
six
had
of them
7
gone.
on one dill
Yeah,
one
5 or
day, and
6
the
of them
next day I
gone.
looked and there was one.
Yeah.
And
What's the
so I
third?
figure, yeah, because I can sometimes I'll see the birds flying by and think, yeah, you guys are checking out what's going on here on the plants. But
Yeah. What's the
today at
third?
Tollgate we had shoot, my friend looked it up. It was kind of a yellow orange swallowtail of some sort, and I can't remember the name of it. I don't remember ever seeing one before.
We saw two types that we haven't seen before. The pearl crescent's been around a lot here, and not queen. It's another royal name. Queen, monarch, and viceroy. It
Oh
might have
yeah.
been a viceroy, because we saw a
No, that
viceroy.
wasn't the name she gave it because and it was like a swallowtail. It had the long tail.
That's neat.
I'll
It's
have to go, yeah,
yeah,
but
a lot of cabbage whites out there today. One American lady darting around, and one sulfur went by, but mostly 5 or 6 cabbage whites flying around, which I kind of hope are there for at night. We have bats, and I watch, and the bats circle our yard because, of course, there's brush and there's things to scare up. There's just lawn on all sides, so there'll be 4 bats circling on the top of our yard all the time, and I'm figuring they're eating all my lightning bugs. All those things that float up.
what about the plant in the book?
Oh,
The
the plant they were collecting
Yeah, that wasn't at Brazil
was
or, s-
someplace in the Amazon,
or
in the
in the Amazon somewhere.
Upper Amazon, but not Brazil. Where's another place where it starts? Ecuador, the Ecuadorian highlands or something. It was there. They did have a name for it, but I didn't find anything about it anywhere that said that it was actually something that nobody's that's using. Yeah, I know it's a nibble. There it is.
Yeah, I may have read that as part of my book club. It's, a lot of times I read books, like right now we're reading one on the Revolution, and I have to finish it. The book club is tomorrow. And it reads more like a textbook.
Yeah, those are tough. They're tough to get into.
And having a book club with a librarian deciding what you're going to read, I mean, I'm exposed to a lot of different things, but
My brother-in-law belongs to a book club, and it's just a bunch of random people, and there's a librarian in charge. The librarian picks the books, and John my sister died a year ago, and he's just been looking for what he wants to do and things to do. So John's there, and the first book that they read had it was a murder mystery, and the wife was killed.
oh no.
The second book, the wife died unexpectedly, and it was part of the story. And when they got ready to pick the third book, John said, "If I get a third book where the wife dies, could I like opt out of that one?" I mean, it's just he said actually when you look at it, there's an awful lot of the crime books that involve a woman getting hurt or getting killed on a regular basis. All there is to it. When I post this recording for anybody who couldn't be here, I'll splice in a couple pieces from the other side of things, different things we talked about. But we talked about this book, and I talked about it because I read this one too this last month. A friend gave it to me, and I couldn't put it down. It's 290 pages. It's historical. It's an historical account as close as the person can get, and it's got a ton of verification of the people involved, of whose papers he used to write it, and the bibliography with the notes in it, of the people at the Leningrad seed storage facility, the first in the world, the biggest in the world, of tons of seed, tens of thousands of types of seed. Their staff had been all over the world collecting from Peru and Argentina and Pakistan and Turkey and far north Canada in order to have all these strains that they could use to cross with. And it was housed in Leningrad, not particularly well seen by the Stalin regime, and so not getting the resources that it should get, and beginning to be a plum for a conspiratorial Russian quasi-scientist to claim that they were doing it wrong at the seed storage and to try to discredit the main guy. So there's an intrigue, and as it turns out, a mystery that works its way into these people and what happened to these people. But the staff at the seed storage facility are so dedicated, so sure that these seeds need to be saved because some of these habitats don't even exist anymore. They were harvested first 40 years ago. They're going to save them. But Leningrad was under siege much longer than Stalingrad. 900 days it was under siege and cut off because Stalin said, "I'm not sending anything in there. They're going to have to get by on their own." And they did not eat the seeds. They kept the seeds. They even got them out and planted them like they need to do. They planted them within sight of German bunkers in the ring. And it's the real story of why they did it, how they did it, the people involved, the ones that lived, the ones that died, because 3/4 of the population died during this. So anyway, I was telling them about that, and they said, "Well, we'll read that one." So that's on the list, but we could change it, and I'm sure that those people who were interested in it yesterday will go ahead and read it. It's fairly new, 2018 or 2019, so it was at the
2024, I think. I just pulled it up at my library.
Okay.
Published date 2024. It's very new.
It must have been a different one we were looking at that was, it's The Immense World that was 1918 or 2018 or 2019. Yeah, all this stuff, but they've been collected from all over the world, and they knew that the provenance was really special on all of these, and that some of them, they might not even exist in the wild anymore, so they were not going to give them up, and it's what they did to keep the seeds safe and yet do their part in Leningrad, and also a look at what it was like to be in a city that was totally cut off from everything. No food coming in, water not working, the electricity not working for over 2 years. I mean, geez, so it's a bit of a downer in that way, but for me it was terribly fascinating to read.
I think that sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because is it true?
It's true. It's true. My hat is off to
It's
this.
like nonfiction. It's like a real, but is it like a
Yes.
story too?
Yep, it's a real story. It's a story, but it's a real story that this Simon Parkin, my hat's off to him. He went through diaries and journals and records, and
Yeah.
at the time that he was looking for stuff, it was right before Russia invaded Ukraine, and also while COVID was going on, and he managed to get some people in archives in Russian places to give him records that other people were like, we can't collaborate with Western people right now, you know,
Yeah.
all this stuff's going on. So I gotta hand it to him because it's pretty amazing how meticulously um, uh, documented it is, written it is, and how documented. I'm saying in the back of the book, there's page after page of the biographies of the people whose journals he used.
Wow.
And then I think 20 pages of footnotes, you know, where the footnotes came from, and I think that's pretty impressive. Yeah.
Is this still, is this a, I've heard about a library where they keep all the seeds and in case of the end of the world, like, you know, like as we know it, they'll have the seed bank.
Yeah,
So
they do.
just in case anybody survives,
Right.
you will have
That's
the
what
seed.
this right, and that's what this seed bank was all about, was saving seeds, but also just like Seed Savers Exchange. Seed Savers Exchange, at least when we went out there, and that's going on 20 years ago now, is the largest private seeds storage facility in the world, and that's just run by the Seed Savers Exchange. But they have to have a farms plural, multiple acres where they can plant this stuff out, because the seed only lasts X amount of time before you need to grow it and harvest new seed. And they had to do that in Leningrad too, in the middle of a you know, everyday bombing campaign. These guys were out
Wow.
these guys were out planting potatoes within sight of the German bunkers that were strafing them. I mean, just
Wow.
just
Yeah, let's read that book.
yeah.
You read it, you already read it though?
I did read it already. I will go back through it to make notes for this, because I didn't make notes. I was just reading it because it was recommended to me and I couldn't put it down.
And I see one's available at the library, but I dare not put another
Put it on
book
your
on
list?
the moment.
Okay. So suggestion, we can pull a number and look for something else. A couple more got put onto the list. Janet, list.
I'm fine with that. I like historical fiction.
I love historical fiction because I get to
Now,
look
is this
things up.
fiction or is it a true?
No, it's a true account, as true as he can possibly
Oh.
make it.
Yeah,
From
it's
people's
not.
journals and diaries. It's not, for the most part, he doesn't quote journals and diaries. He tells the story because he had the journals and diaries, the archives and the seed storage, the correspondence that went back and forth between everybody in the world that revered the director of the seed storage. There were people from the Royal Horticultural Society, people from the National Geographic Society, all the scientific academics were trying to do what they could to make, anyway. So it's pretty cool. So if one's okay, that makes 2 yesterday and 1 today, and that outnumbers anybody else. So I'll leave it on the list. But if
Was the
anybody-
last name Parking?
Parkin, no G.
Parkin.
Yep.
Oh, I see.
But I did tell people that if you're into historical accounts and incredible people, there's another one. It's going to be harder to find because it's maybe 2004, 2005, but it's out there. The Defiant Garden. It's about gardens in places that you would not imagine there were gardens. In the trenches in World War I, in POW camps in Japan in World War II, in the Warsaw Ghetto, in the ones that prison people run. I mean, it's pretty amazing when you think about it, especially when, who would ever think, okay, in the POW camps or in where our Japanese internment camps here, you got people who are living in a place that's totally different from, they're in a jungle, they've never been in a jungle, they don't even know what they can grow, let alone how to grow it, but they've got to grow it or die, you know, that kind of stuff. And in the trenches, it was more because it was home. I mean, there were little setups with little plaques, like English people, if they could have carried a gnome, there would have been gnome in some of these gardens. Anyway, that one's a cool one, but going to be too hard to find to really have a bunch of people read it. So I added to the list. Come on, where are you? Here. I know there's books at the end that somebody told us about. The Plant Messiah was recommended, and it's on the list now. It's about a plant collector, a worldwide plant collector. And Gardening Can Be Murder, I think we just added. How gardens and gardening have affected the murder mystery genre over the last 150 years.
Huh.
But that's not
Well,
enough.
the botanist's assistant's one of those, huh?
Well, I think it's not. It's not a novel. It's a interested person's, if not an academic's, look at maybe it was somebody's master's not PhD. What do you call it? Master's work, where they have to write something and publish something. The first time I read one called "Last Refuge of Scoundrels." It was about the American Revolution, and it was great. And it turned out that that was somebody's master's degree or PhD. They'd gotten into studying it and said, "Hell, we'll just publish this as a book." Yeah, pretty neat. And for me, like you're reading the textbook you're talking about that the librarian chose, Marilyn,
Yeah.
I can't read just a history book. 1854 versus 1857 versus, but if you give me people and things to remember, and this Last Refuge of Scoundrels wove the story so you felt like you actually knew George Washington and how pleased he was that he was going to get to wear his brass buttons again, and how much people resented John Adams putting his foot into everything. And one of the main characters in that one, and I think the person that the graduate work involved, was a woman who entered the war masquerading as a man, and eventually ended up becoming a spy for George Washington, and eventually, nearly 80 years later, being awarded a pension, because when they drummed her out of the service, or when they got out of the service, then it was apparent she wasn't a man, and they denied her pension, but they posthumously reinstated it to her family years and years later. And I thought that's history, the way that you can kind of think of it.
Yeah, this was a little drier, and it's obviously like a professor or something. He's got a whole list of a lot of books, and a lot of them around the American Revolution. But it kind of went from the cause, the beginning, and toward the end now I'm getting a better feeling for people like Washington, and how he never really, just was reading something kind of parallels what we're going through today, but he didn't want to become a dictator, basically, and he was in a position where they would have made him.
They would have kept him in.
And that wasn't what he was about.
Yeah.
And I thought, he was a pretty good guy, actually, in a lot of ways.
There were some pretty good people. All this stuff, but they'd been collected from all over the world, and they knew that the provenance was really special on all of these, and that some of them, they might not even exist in the wild anymore, so they were not going to give them up. And it's what they did to keep the seeds safe, and yet do their part in Leningrad, and also a look at what it was like to be in a city that was totally cut off from everything. No food coming in, water not working, the electricity not working for over 2 years. I mean, geez, Pete. So it's a bit of a downer in that way, but for me it was terribly fascinating to read.
I think that sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As it goes. Okay, thank you for being here, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
The Forbidden Garden for next time.
Yeah.